going to start. This is going to be episode STT episode 4.5. I'm calling it 4.5, the special episode. It's the man episode. Started off. I'm Marc. In case you didn't know that already, I'm Marc. I am not a licensed professional. I am just an average guy doing things in an unconventional way or an atypical way. So we're going to talk about today. So you find out your spouse had an R&V, an affair, and what the hell do I do next, right? So you find out and you're like, what do I do, right? So my suggestion first is to take time to process for you. I mean, this can be a jarring thing. It's an emotional event in your life, and you need to process all of it for yourself before you do something or say something that's either inappropriate or something you can't take back. So definitely process first. Once you've processed, and that can take a day, that can take a week, that can take whatever. It's up to you how long it takes you to process, hours, whatever. You need to flush through your feelings. When I say flush through your feelings, a lot of times we hear man up, which is a lot of people assume that means bury your feelings. But manning up, in my opinion, would be you are processing and expressing your emotions in a way that is communicative. Some way that you can actually communicate with someone and not just anger vomit, because you don't want it to come out as anger vomit, one, and you also don't want it to come out at wrong times or wrong places. So processing it and then working through your emotions about everything that's happened is important for you to understand and to do these first steps so that you can come at this in a calm and kind manner. And I know a lot of you are thinking kind. No, you need to be kind. You need to be kind and remember that, if you're like me, you have children, you need to be kind, because this person you're about to speak to, this person that you're going to talk to and try and work this through is the mother of your children, and you should respect that, if nothing else. You need to carefully consider the kids. Now, when I talk about carefully considering the kids, it's not about considering them whether I should stay or should I go because of them. It's consider what you're going to say around them, or within earshot of them, or in front of them, because again, this is the mother of your children, and obviously disrespecting her in front of them is not productive for anyone. It's not going to lead you down a path that's going to be anything productive for anyone. And you shouldn't do it. It just shouldn't happen. Now, once you've done these first 3 steps, then you come and talk to your wife or your significant other. I would recommend processing and flushing through feelings, especially taking your time with that before you go to them and try and bring this up. When you go to your wife, you should, this is going to take a few times. This is going to take one and done. This is going to be, you go to her, you ask her questions, you talk about your feelings, you process with her, and, you have questions, you ask them, you get through those, and I implore the spouse, whomever did the R&V, whoever did the affair, I would say be open and honest with all your answers, as difficult as they may be to give. I would definitely say, please, talk to your spouse. Even if you're not going to work it out, even if you plan on walking away, it's just going to be better for you emotionally, both of you, if you're able to ask questions and freely talk about what happened. This might take a couple times, and you need to ask everything you need to know. Everything that you think you need to know as the person that was R&V'd, you need to ask them. And I would say get all those questions out so that you can feel comfortable in asking those and getting the answers that you think you need. This again might take a few times. This isn't going to be like a one conversation, walk away, and there's no more questions to be asked. I mean, you might have questions for a week or longer. I would say take time to process the information you have now, and then once you've processed that information, then pray about it. Pray and ask God for his advice, for his help, for his guidance, and trying to understand everything that you're trying to process. And then once you've done that, the hardest part comes next. This, in my opinion, is going to be the hardest part. It's going to be taking that self-inventory of so the R&V, the affair, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it an R&V. So the R&V happened, right? And that's the person that did the R&V's responsibility. And obviously they should own that part of what happened. It's not your fault. No one's blaming you. I'm not blaming myself. What I'm saying is that what led to it, because no R&V happens in a vacuum, right? We had the perfect relationship and everything was going great and she cheated on me, or she had the affair or the R&V. So I would ask you, like I did for myself, I would say go back and look at, what happened in the relationship, which is partly your responsibility, and say, we weren't communicating, we weren't emotionally connected to one another. All these things that build up resentment and lead to contempt and anger, and these things that you just bury. I would say go back and look at those and take your responsibility for those actions and those thoughts and those things that happened, so that you can get to the root of the real problem. Because the affair most times is the byproduct of your relationship being in a bad place, which is what the situation was for us. We weren't communicating, we weren't emotionally connected. There was a lot of other things that were going on, that we had built up these resentments and contempt that led to, Raquel stepping outside of our marriage for those needs, those emotional needs, which led to a physical affair. So a lot of times people are going to tell you that, you're advocating for victim shaming. Hey, I'm not victim shaming. I'm not trying to shame myself. What I'm trying to say is that the R&V happened, and Raquel understands and takes full responsibility for that part of it, but not taking responsibility for my part of it, which is what led her to that low point in our relationship and that low point in her life, is naive and irresponsible of me to blame just her for her getting there. And I think anybody that is honestly looking to truly forgive, or to actually move on in their life, and to say, okay, this is something I need to, there's things I need to work on with me, to be in a better relationship with either the person you're with at that time or the next person, for you to be happy. I would say do that. In this time that you're doing self-inventory, I would urge you to resist falling into bad habits. Like, i.e. drinking, getting stoned, drugs, or porn, all these things that detract from you feeling your emotions and feeling how you feel. Because all these things are depressants, and these things are they're going to take you and get you away from clear thought. And they're a Band-Aid. They're not going to help you in the long run. Drinking away the problem and getting high on the problem and watching porn over and over, none of these things are good for you, or are going to actually lead you to some sense of finality or sense that you're going to feel better about yourself. So once you kind of take that self-inventory and you try and stay away from bad habits, I can't say that enough. I would find someone to talk to, a friend, but when you talk about talking to a friend, if you need to talk to a friend, I would talk to the most level-headed friend you have, because what you don't want is someone that is gonna, try and bring out the bad natures, the bad habits, that wants to go drink and talk crap about your spouse, your significant other, or try and goat you into doing something, that possibly maybe you don't want, or those people that are going to be like, you should tell her off, and you should tell her, F you, and this, that, and the other. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get with those people. You want to try and get with level-headed people that you can say, okay, this happened, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what happened, and maybe you can give me some sort of other perspective on what I could have done or what could be done now. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. Don't be ashamed to say, hey, I need help. I need professional help. If a friend can't get you there, or if you can't get yourself there, don't be afraid to go out and say, hey, I need someone professionally to talk to, and to work through these feelings and to work through these emotions, so that you can process everything. It's a lot. It was a lot for me. It took weeks for me processing and getting all the questions out, and taking that self-inventory, and getting to a spot where I'm comfortable, comfortable in all of this. So, once you've done that, what a lot of articles will tell you is the hard part is forgiveness, right? Forgiving her. And when I talk about forgiveness, I'm talking about true forgiveness. A lot of these articles that you read are going to talk about forgive but don't forget. Forgive but be, half in, half out kind of situation. I'm talking about true forgiveness, and in true forgiveness, you need to forgive them, right? And not use it as a bargaining chip or some sort of thing to hit them over the head with anytime they do something you don't like. That's not true forgiveness. Forgive but not forget is not true forgiveness. True forgiveness is when you forgive them. And again, like Raquel and I have talked about, numerous times in other episodes, forgiveness is a choice. Trust is a choice. These things are choices you make. And when you make these choices, you choose, and then the feeling will come. For me, I chose to forgive her because, I looked at it as I didn't want to have this thing inside of me, this blackness inside of me that made me into this bitter person, and made me into something that I didn't want to be. Angry all the time, frustrated all the time, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want all that in my life. I wanted to be happy for me, So in that I wanted to be happy for me, I decided, okay, I'm going to, forgiveness, forgive. So when I forgave her, it was easy to go from forgiveness to forgetting, to get there, to the trust, because you truly forgive somebody, then you forgive them, and you say, okay, I forgive you, and then it's done. It's done. Forgive and not forget is not true forgiveness. You want to truly forgive somebody, then you truly forgive him, and you say, okay, I'm done, saying anything about it. It doesn't mean you can't talk about it as two mature adults and discuss, what happened, discuss things again and again, which is what Raquel and I did. We many discussions about the R&V after the forgiveness. It doesn't mean that you can't have a mature discussion about it. It just means that you're not going to get emotionally charged and anger vomit and say things that are just mean and spiteful, and try and anytime they say something you don't like, you're like, oh well, but you did this. That's not true forgiveness. You gotta truly forgive and come at it from a mature perspective. Once you've done that, then you can move forward. You can move forward either as like Raquel and I, a story of resilience, where we came back together and realized we love each other and we want to work through this, or you can move on. But going through these steps, I think, will help you as a human being to move on. If you're going to decide to move on, if that's your choice, you're going to move on. I think going through these things will help you with moving on and not carrying this on to the next relationship or the next person, and having this excess baggage or this black mark on you, and being a depressed or upset person all the time, about things. And then, obviously we have kids. So with that, even if we had decided to separate and move on, it would have been a co-parenting situation where we needed to figure out how to be co-parents. So you still have to respect this person in the end. If you're a parent, in my situation, we have 5 children. So, you still have to show that respect to one another, because, again, she's the mother of my children, and you should show kindness and respect to, if anything else, that should demand a kindness and respect, that, she's the nurturer, she's the maternal aspect of the children's lives, and wanting to them not to have a black mark on them and be bitter and see anger and see all of that. So, just remembering that should hopefully bring you back into the realm of kindness and respect. You want your wife to cheat, here's your checklist. If you're a guy out there watching, or if you're a wife out there watching, this is your checklist. Don't really listen, because if you're not really going to listen, the other half of communication, when we talk about communication, the other half of communication is listening, not just waiting your turn to get your point across. So, these are all things that are going to aggravate your relationship, and you're going to make it's going to be, a situation where you're making it where the person's going to want to step away from you or find solace somewhere else. So don't really listen. Stop having intimate conversations, which goes along hand in hand with not listening, right? The minute she stops feeling like she can talk to you about, obviously intimate as in her personal thoughts or feelings, if she feels she can't come to you with those, then that you're not going to listen, then you're already in a position where you're messing up. And that's where Raquel and I were. I wasn't really listening. We weren't having intimate conversations. None of that was happening. So, constantly criticize, compare, degrade. And that's in private, that's in public, all these things. If you're constantly criticizing, comparing them to another husband, or comparing them to someone else, or degrading them at home or in public, that's not a good sign. That's not a good spot to be, because, like Raquel and I have talked about many times, if she has an issue with me, then she should feel comfortable enough to come to me and say it. She shouldn't have to say it to someone else. She should already have addressed it with me, and I should be trying to address it, address these problems, myself. So she shouldn't have to vent it to out to people and to say these things. So if you're comparing or degrading or criticizing your spouse, man or woman, it's something you should definitely look at and say, okay, maybe I should, instead of doing that with someone else, I should be going to them, and saying that to them. And then prioritizing activities over your wife. Look, maybe you're a huge gamer. Maybe your wife's a huge gamer. Maybe you're gamers together. If there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing wrong with it, but everything in moderation. If you're prioritizing going home and you're saying, okay, I'm going to get home from work and I'm going to go straight to my game, or I'm going to go straight to my garage, or I'm going to go straight to whatever, and not prioritize your wife, your relationship's going to suffer. It's just the way it is. I mean, anything that you prioritize, and I only mention gaming because I see a ton of comments on Facebook about, my husband's this huge gamer. He comes home and he doesn't do anything but game, blah, blah, blah. He ignores this, that, and the other. Gaming should not take a priority over your wife or your kids, in my opinion. Obviously I'm not perfect, and I have things my hobbies or things that I do, but I obviously prioritize taking that necessary time with Raquel and with my kids, so that they feel like they're a priority, and that they should feel like the number one priority in your life. Because if not, then what are you doing? Why are you even married? Why are you even married if all you're going to do is game or hide away from your family, then why even have them there? And that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I don't believe I am. Withholding affection. The article I read, it says withholding affection in sex, but obviously for men, most of the time it's withholding affection. It's withholding, that, withholding from your spouse, simple things, walking in from work and giving them a hug or giving them a kiss, asking them how their day is. Be generally concerned about what's going on with them. When I worked, obviously I'm retired now. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's retired, so he's at home all the time. It's blah, blah, blah. There's no. When I worked, I came home and I helped around the house. I asked Raquel how her day was. We spoke, like that. And even now, we still constantly speak and constantly take the time to say, hey, I love you, give each other a kiss, hug, and have that physical touch during the day that doesn't necessarily have to lead to anything. It doesn't have to lead to anything. Just showing affection and not withholding it will enhance your relationship. And I would say to everyone out there, look at the 5 love languages and look which one's yours. Because mine's physical touch. Is really high on mine. Acts of service is Raquel's. So understanding those and trying to incorporate those into your life is really going to help your relationship. It has ours. If you're always on social media, if you're always, looking at social media, if you're always gaming and all these things, these just detract and take away from you. When you got married, you said, I love you. And you said that you're a priority in my life and you're that priority and I'm marrying you because I want to be with you for the rest of my life. I want you to be part of my life in some fashion for the rest of it. So you made them a priority then. So you should work and look and say, okay, if they're a priority then, why are they falling down the priority list behind gaming or social media or this, that, and the other? I would implore you to look at your priorities and check those out and say, okay, where does my spouse fit in those? And if she's below gaming or social media or anything that's the activities, then I would say look at that activity and see why they fell in priority on the list. Because they shouldn't be. Any relationship, friendship, marriage, spouse, girlfriend, anything is going to take work. Everything's going to be, it's going to take, you actively trying, and if that's not for you, then I would say, why are you married? why are you with this person if you're not going to try? Investing all your time and energy into your kids. Now, it's great to invest time and energy into kids. You should. I would recommend doing that, and that priority should be there as well. But that priority should not be higher than your relationship with your spouse. You need to make that time for your spouse and show that affection and show that interest in their life, and have those intimate conversations and listen. Be an actual listener. And your kids should be priority as well, but they should be the first priority. Because your kids, prioritizing, when they talk about investing all your time and energy in your kids, you're just delaying, dealing with your spouse. You're delaying it by saying, okay, well, I'm going to do all this stuff with my kids. I'm going to do all this stuff, and all my energy and all my time is going to go into them. And then you're not actually actively trying at your relationship. You're going to have a great relationship with your kids, and that's great. That's a great thing to have. But you still need to go on dates with your wife. You still need to be dating her. You need to be courting her at all times. Raquel and I saw a thing on online on Facebook the other night we were talking about where it said, if you're not trying to court your wife, then someone else will be. And that's a true statement. You should plan events. You should plan dates. And that goes both ways. I mean, I get it. You're the guy, and a lot of times women are like, well, the guy should plan this and the guy should plan that. Yes, you should. But, every once in a while, if you want to say, hey, babe, let's go have dinner, or let's go ice skating, or let's go do whatever, I'm sure they would enjoy that as well. So I would say both of you plan dates. Plan dates, plan events, plan things for personal time for you and them to recharge your marriage, recharge your relationship. it's a lot. It's a lot. I get it. Some of you are going to say, well, I work 8 hours, 12 hours a day, whatever, and I get it. You're going to come home and tired. But, a lot of times what I would do, a lot of times what I do now is you take that 30 minutes to recharge yourself. You take that hour to recharge yourself, whatever you need, however much time you need. And same with Raquel. Raquel will take time to kind of veg and recharge herself and not always be mom, not always be dad, and you need that. You need that in your relationship to not always be dad or mom. You need to be Marc, be Raquel. You need to be each other. You need to remember that you are in a relationship with each other, and that relationship needs to be a priority, and it needs to be something that you say, okay, you are a priority. Obviously, our kids are a priority, and then I know some of you out there are like, well, if your wife's a priority and your kids are a priority, then where does my gaming or my social media or my golf or my whatever fall into? It should fall lower than them. And I get it. That might eat into your personal time. But, it doesn't take a lot. It really doesn't. If you're doing it and you get into it and you start doing it and you say, okay, I'm going to make a priority. How much time does it actually take to say, hey, honey, how was your day? Or, hey, babe, I love you. And give them a kiss and a hug and say, hey, do you need help? Let me help you with this. Let me help you with that. Let me help you here. Let me help you there. You should be, in my opinion, you should be each other's biggest cheerleader and your biggest critic. Should be both to that person. Cheer them on when they need cheering on and criticize with love and kindness when you need to help motivate them to get back to where you can cheer them again. And I get it. Some of you are like, well, I work all day. Well, you can still, message. There's other ways to do affection or show affection that isn't exactly you standing right there with them. Send a message like, I'm thinking of you, or how's your day going, and try and have an open and honest conversation with them, through a phone call or through a text message, or just validate their feelings and have those intimate conversations with them. And then Raquel and I take time at night, after we put toddlers to bed and fed everybody, and we got 5 kids. 5 kids is a lot, or at least I'm told it's a lot. So we got 5 other people in this house that need help with school and with activities, and toddlers that need help with almost everything. You take time at night for each other. You put kids to bed and you stay up an extra hour, an extra half hour or whatever, and take that time to kind of veg and reset your energy level and yourself. And then you go into it and say, okay, let's talk about something. Let's bring up a conversation. Let's talk about how do you feel about this, or how do you feel about that, and get really to the root of things and talk about boundaries and talk about everything. I think if you start doing that, I think it'll really help your relationship. It'll really invigorate and energize your relationship and renew it. For Raquel and I, it has. Being open and honest with one another and speaking to each other and talking and taking that time to not only reset ourselves and kind of come into conversations with respect and kindness and all that in our minds. It's really helped our relationship immensely. I mean, I can tell you that if you try this, it will really help your relationship. And again, I'm not advocating for people to go out and have an R&V to get to where we're at. I'm telling you that before you get to where we're at, you can still use these steps. You can still look at these things, this checklist, and say, what am I not doing? I think a lot of times we go into conversations and we say, this is what you're not doing. This is what your fault is. This is what your problem is. Instead of saying, okay, what am I not doing? What am I not doing? And how can I change me to help get the other person to where they need to be, or where you need them to be, so you can have that open, honest conversation. A lot of times in relationships, I think, which is a fault that Raquel and I had, you play the blame game. You blame the other person for everything, and you try and say, okay, well, you, when you should be looking in the mirror and saying, I, or me, you know, say, okay, well, what did I not do? What am I not doing? You know, how am I not listening? How am I not having these intimate conversations? How am I degrading or comparing or criticizing my spouse? You know, how am I withholding affection or physical contact? Am I not making her a priority? Am I spending more time with a hobby? You know, gaming, social media, golfing, you know, underwater basket weaving, whatever the case may be, you know, a hobby or activity, or am I investing all my time in the kids and ignoring her or him? You know, all these things you can look at and say, okay, are these things happening? If they're happening, then, you know, now's the time to say, okay, let's snap out of that. Let's switch this up. Let's, you know, go on dates. Let's talk to each other. Let's take that time, you know, and no matter what age. I mean, I got a 2-year-old and I got a 16-year-old. You know, that's the span here. You know, 16 and 2. So I get it. You know, that they're, you know, a lot of times kids are time consuming and they need a lot of help, and they need answers to questions, and they need taken here or taken there or chauffeured or whatever the case may be. But there's always that hour or two in your day that you could, even if you're laying in bed and talking in bed, you know, before you go to sleep, you know, getting a conversation in there. You know, you can always work it into your schedule, or have a conversation while you're making breakfast or whatever. You know, these things you can do that will improve your relationship, you know. So, you know, with this episode, we're talking about, you know, if your spouse R&Vs, if you have, you know, an affair or any R&V really, anything you see as a relationship norm violation, what do you do next? You know, and I think if you do these steps, if you do these things and you do these steps, you take time to process and you flush through your feelings, and stop using the man up thing as a way to bury your feelings. You flush through your feelings, you carefully consider your kids. And when I say carefully consider the kids, I say that in the sense that what you say around them and how your tone is. You do that, and then you talk to your wife, and you have that open and honest conversation, and then you take some time to process and pray. I say pray. You know, you can just say take time to process again, but I say pray because I'm Christian, and I would always say pray. And then take that self-inventory. That one is going to be the hardest one. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be the hardest one. Is taking your responsibility in it and saying, okay, this is my part of it. You know, this is what led you there. What you did is what you did, but what led you there, this is my part of it. Taking that self-inventory and then and resisting those bad habits. Please resist those bad habits. And then you find a friend or someone that you can talk to kind of get an outside perspective, and you know, again, with this friend or this person that you talk to, it needs to be someone that is level-headed and someone that can give you good advice, and not try and feed into whatever anger that you have at that moment. And then seek professional help if you need it. If you need professional help, don't be afraid to say, hey, I need to talk to an actual professional. The friend was good, great times, glad we talked, but I need to talk to somebody, a therapist or whatever, to seek that professional help to get yourself to a spot where you can be happy with yourself. And then forgive. And if you're not ready to truly forgive, and when I talk about truly forgive, I mean truly forgive. Not forgive but don't forget, but truly forgive. If you're ready to do that, then you're in that spot. But if you're not, then you need to go back through the flushing of the feelings. You need to go back through that processing and back through that prayer, and then go back to your spouse and talk to them again and say, hey, you know, I tried to work on this forgiveness. I'm trying to say I forgive you, but I can't. Then you need to go back and process. You need to go back and talk to yourself and look at yourself and do that self-inventory again. This is what I did. to process and to get to a spot where I could truly forgive Raquel. And I know a lot of you, are like, oh, well, maybe you're just weird, or maybe you're just atypical, or whatever. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm a weirdo. But I look at this and I see this is the way to make you happy, and that's what it stems from. Because what Raquel and I have now realized is that you're never going to be happy in your relationship if you're not happy with yourself. And that realization hit like a ton of bricks. You have to be happy with yourself. And these steps will get you. I promise you, for me, at least in my experience, these steps got me there. These steps got me where I could be happy with me and work on me and say, okay, this is what I need to change about me so that I can be happy. And then I go to her and say, okay, I want to be happy with you. So when I want to be happy with you, now I'm happy with me. So now I can be happy with you, and we can be happy with each other, and working that out.
Question. How do you recommend a spouse approach another spouse if they find out that they're cheating? They just flat out approach them and say, hey, I saw this. What's going on? Hey, do you have something to tell me?
So in my scenario, I found out on my own. And so at that point, I hadn't read anything or done anything to better myself. So I just went right at it, but that caused a lot of anger vomit and a lot of saying things that were not nice, So I would recommend, if you find out on your own, I would recommend taking time to process first and flush through your feelings and do those first steps, carefully consider the kids, and then take it to your wife. That way you can come at it or husband. I'm sorry. I'm talking from my perspective. So I'm talking from me. So I would work through those first 3 steps so that you can process yourself and flush through those feelings and get those all out, and carefully consider your kids if you have children before you take it to your spouse. That way you can come at it. And I say this, and a lot of you are probably going to shake your head. You need to come at it with kindness and respect. Because if you do have children, no matter what, this person is going to be in your life. So you need to come at it with kindness and respect. And hopefully that kindness and respect will be reciprocated. Because in my case, in my scenario, in my experience here, it was reciprocated. When I got past the anger vomit and got past all the anger and the frustration, because you got to understand, you read any article, anger and frustration, they're there, but those are always surface emotions, surface emotions to betrayal and these feelings of hurt from that stem from that. So you need to get past those surface emotions, those anger and those frustration emotions, to get down to the root of what it's really about. And I think doing that, will help you. And I think if you work through these first 3 before you go to your wife, it'll help you coming to her and saying it without saying something disrespectful or something you're going to regret later, would be my answer to that. That's just me. Maybe you just say screw it and you're going to go to her and be like, no, which is what I did. Obviously.
Consider how they're going to respond with how you approach it. So if you come at them yelling at them and disrespecting them, what is more likely going to be the response?
In my experience, you're going to get 2 responses. Either you're going to get angry back, you're going to get anger vomit back, which is not going to be productive for either of you, because then you're just going to be spewing anger vomit at each other, and it's just going to be some emotional thing where you lose pace and you lose consciousness, basically, because you're going to be like, well, remember 2 years ago when you did this? You're just going to lose focus completely. Or you're going to get, obviously, what I got, where Raquel was crying and
Well, initially. What did I do initially?
Initially, she shut down. So initially it was just a shutdown and
No
it
response.
Is what it is, no response, and you get nothing. That gets you nowhere either. So you can get shut down, you can get anger vomit, or you can get overly visceral response from it, which is crying, which doesn't lead to any conversation. It's just one person yelling and one person crying, which leads you nowhere. Which you might feel better for the moment, about yelling and getting that out. But after that moment, you're still left with no answers, and you're still left to wonder what's going on. So I would say work through those first three. It definitely would help. Like in our situation, when it first happened and I started to spew some anger vomit, she just shut down and didn't say anything. It was like, well, it is what it is, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, basically whatever,
That's
you can
literally
go.
all I said.
Yeah, it is what it is. So
Nothing else.
So shutdown mode, right? So I think the first initial response can't be what you base your conversations off of, because obviously you're going to be angry. The person that got R&V'd is going to be angry, and the person that did the R&V is going to be either shut down emotionally because it's where they were before, and it was just easier to shut down because that's worked in the past. Possums play possum because it works. Lay there and play dead and just hope the threat goes away. It works. So, and I think that's kind of what Raquel's first initial response was let me just lay here and play dead. Avoid conflict, and let him walk away and see what we'll go from there. But that's not going to lead you to anywhere good. Obviously, that's not going to lead you to a spot where you can have those open and honest conversations or resolve anything. The goal for these should be that you're happy, you personally. Like, I'm happy. Like, a lot of people probably wonder. I don't know, maybe people wonder. And if you want to DM me about it, I'll tell you all about it. 'Cause, like, again, I'll tell you, I'm super chatty, as you can see nowadays. Because once we turned on to me talking and feeling emotions, it just, and now I'm all open all the time. So I talk a lot. So if you want to DM me and ask me if I'm really happy, on the sly, like, hey, because a lot of people do that to me. Like I say, I'm happy now with myself, and I'm happy with our relationship. And people be like, look at me and be like, but are you really happy? Because I guess that's the secret key word. Like, you say you're happy, but are you really happy? Like, if you lean in and open your eyes big and then add the word really to it, be like, oh, you caught me. Oh no, I'm not really happy. No, I'm really happy. I'm really happy with myself, and I'm in a good place with myself, and which leads to being happy with my wife, Raquel, and leads to being in a happy relationship because I'm able to be open and honest and to talk about what's going on with me, and then in turn that opens her up to be open and honest to talk about her. This is just an episode to talk about, for me to talk about my side of it or my perspective of it, and hopefully this will help people. Again, I'm not a licensed professional of anything, but I hope this helps answer some questions for some of you out there. And, hopefully if there's a guy out there that's in the same situation, I hope this can help you either salvage your relationship, which is what we've done, and you can tell your story of resilience, or it'll help you move on and be a productive human being past this experience, a healthy, Raquel's helping me now. So, which is obviously I need it. Be a healthy person mentally and emotionally, which should be your goal. All right. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can post on our page, Salvaging the Titanic, on Facebook. We are now on YouTube. We have a YouTube page. You can go to YouTube and type in The Mertzes. That's capital THE and then MERTZ with a apostrophe at the end of it. And you will find us on there, and all our videos are uploaded. We edited them. I mean, we're getting super professional here. We edited them, and they have captions and everything. So, you don't even have to hear my voice. You can just turn my voice off and just watch the captions. It'll be perfect. All right, on that note, I appreciate everyone showing up, and thank you for watching.